started. I'd like to give a very short introduction. Mary Burgess, BC campus, and she will take the rest of her group. We'll turn it over to you.
Okay, thanks everybody. We have 7 speakers and about 3 minutes each, so we're going to talk fast and not use slides. So just briefly, we really wanted to do a session that would be sort of practical around the things that we've done in our projects to get adoption and awareness happening of our resources. So we're just going to very briefly do that, and would encourage you to talk to us after if you have questions. So I just give you a little spiel about our project. I'm from British Columbia, and we have a project happening to produce 40 open textbooks in the most highly enrolled first and second year subjects in our province, and another 20 in areas in the province in which we have skills gaps. So that's what we've been working on for about the last year. In terms of adoption and what we've done, for us it really boils down to outreach, fundamentally. So we've done a whole bunch of work around that, and hopefully you can take some of these ideas and maybe use them in your own contexts. We've done 4 face-to-face one-day adoption workshops on campuses around the province, and people from the other institutions were also invited to those. Basically those were what is open, what is an open textbook, where do I find them, how do I do an adoption with my students. We did one of those online recently, a month-long asynchronous workshop, which is an OER that you can all use. If you go to open.bccampus.ca, you'll find out information about our project and contact info. If you want to use our adoption workshop, it's CC BY. We also have done a lot of outreach specifically with faculty. So we visited, in BC we call them articulation committees. I think they're discipline panels here maybe. So we went to 15 of those in the spring where we knew we were going to get in front of faculty who needed to be exposed to the idea of open textbooks. So we did that. We also did meetings with student groups to help them understand the project so they could be advocates for us, and we're continuing to do that as well. We also took every opportunity that we could to meet with senior administrators from institutions so that we could have pressure coming from all aspects of the institution. So whenever there was a meeting of college presidents or university presidents or anything like that, we tried to get ourselves on the agenda to make them aware of what we were doing. We have also recently begun to work with librarians, both in a consortium way and with individuals within the institutions. I've been hearing more and more talk about the importance of libraries in OER, and we think that there's a crucial role there, and that as the place on campus where people go to get quality resources, we want librarians involved in our project as much as we possibly can. We also created an advisory committee, for lack of a better word, made up of people from our institutions, from all the institutions across our province, and a variety of roles. So we have students, faculty, instructional designers, bookstore people, librarians, senior administrators, all people who could come to us and tell us this is kind of the reality on our campus for the people who are in our roles, help us help people on our campuses. So that's been an important role, and particularly in terms of getting buy-in and transferring that into the institutions. And then finally, we've done a lot around communications. Our project is funded by the Ministry of Advanced Education in BC, so we work with government communications to do news releases and things like that. We do interviews with media, all of that sort of stuff. So that's me. Megan Beckett from CULA is after me.
Thanks, Mary. Yes, my name is Megan. I'm the content coordinator at CULA Education in South Africa. And we see ourselves working at the intersection of community, technology, and openness to create high-quality educational resources and make them available to every learner and teacher in South Africa. Our textbooks are predominantly maths and science focused, and they've been collaboratively authored. Key to the national adoption of our textbooks has been our unique relationship with our government. Our Department of Basic Education has printed all of our textbooks for every learner in the country at a government school last year, this year, and they will do so again next year. That means that by next year, there will be about 10 million copies of our resources in circulation in South Africa. And many learners in schools never had access to any resources before, so this is the first time that they'll actually have any books. So although many schools saw our texts as supplementary as first, more and more schools are starting to use them now as they see that they're high quality and the way that they can use them in classrooms. And although schools might not have used them at first, the key was that learners did. And what we found is that in order to make your textbooks as widely used and adopted as possible, you need to remain device agnostic. So crucial to this is that we've made all of our content available on mobile sites and also on a chat room service, which is very popular amongst youth in South Africa, called Mixit. We launched our websites for maths and science in January 2012 last year. And since then, we have about 500,000 unique visitors to the site per month. This just shows the dire need for educational resources in South Africa. This has hugely increased the use of our content and will facilitate long-term adoption if learners are using it already. We then realized that in order for educators, schools, provinces, and government to adopt our textbooks, we need to engage with them and show that we're here for the long term and that we're worth investing in. And key to this is personal engagement. So we also run lots of workshops, we do school visits, have evening events, and attend local conferences to show the community that we're worth investing in. Then, as I said, our books are also community-driven and collaboratively authored. We found that this has been crucial in driving adoption of our textbooks, not only because people take part in the process, but they then have vested interest in the books and are more likely to advocate the use in their own schools and networks. This also then builds a community around the textbooks, which we can then draw on for future revisions and to improve the books in the long term. We then also realized that we need to do more than just pure maths and science. So what we're embarking on now is a project to produce the 50 most crucial textbooks needed for STEM performance in South Africa. We've realized that schools, educators, and government want a range of textbooks that are openly licensed, that covers more than just maths and science. These will be some of the most widely accessible resources in South Africa, as we'll have them available on mobile, online, and also on Mixit. They'll also be available for print by individuals, educators, and provinces. And we're very excited to see how the adoption of the national catalogue of openly licensed textbooks will impact education in South Africa.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Connie Broden. I'm the Director of E-Learning and Open Education at the Washington State Board for Community and Technical Colleges. We represent the 34 community and technical colleges in that state and also the Open Course Library. We got money from the Gates Foundation and from our legislature to develop course materials for the 81 highest enrolled courses in our community college system. And we've hired faculty developers and instructional designers and librarians among our campuses to do that. The charge that they were given was to develop content that constituted a full course and cost the students $30 or less. And we got a variety of solutions from our faculty developers. They are available right now in the form of Google Docs on our website, which is opencourselibrary.org. I invite you all to go take a look. There's some really good stuff there. It is all licensed CC BY. We didn't technically have a textbook project, although some of the faculty developers did develop textbooks, and those are probably the most highly adopted courses, including a math sequence that is, I think, probably our most commonly adopted one. We spent $1.5 million. We are certain that at this point we have saved our students, and we just finished in April, but that we have saved our students over $5.5 million in textbook costs since then, and so the savings are significant. In terms of adoption, we have a lot of professional development in our system. We have just started a 2-week online course on how to find and use open resources, and we also have we fund in our system faculty learning communities where we provide small groups of faculty on a campus with just $5,000. They don't get paid, but they use that money to work on different projects, including often open resources. And we're also working with our librarians because, as Mary mentioned, we think that's key to continued use and growth in the use of open resources. And we are surveying faculty right now. If you come back to this room at 2:30, we'll be presenting on that, what we're finding out from faculty in terms of what are the barriers to adoption and what faculty are looking for in terms of the kind of assistance that they need in order to move into the world of using open textbooks. Did I mention all CC BY?
Okay, I'm David Ernst from the University of Minnesota, and we did have a relatively small, compared to some of these initiatives, open textbook initiative on our campus. Save students $100,000 or so, depending on how you measure it. But I really want to talk more about what we did to leverage that to create resources, or in the process of kind of continually creating resources to help any institution who wants to do what we did create and have an open textbook initiative and really kind of hopefully leap over some of the barriers that we ran into head on. So I'll run through them in the next 2.5 minutes, as many as I can. I'm presenting this tomorrow. You'll have to look up the time. I'm sorry. And so, for instance, faculty, first of all, generally they care about the cost, but they're generally not sensitive to the issues. So we developed a faculty development to address that. They don't understand barrier number 2. If they're sensitive to it, that's fine, but unless they see a solution, they can't really take any action. So they need to understand what open is. And as you may know, that's a complicated thing. It's kind of a paradigm shift for many people. So we're developing some faculty development programming around that. Even after that, when we did that on our campus, we got 0 adoptions. We did faculty development around those. Why? Because faculty are generally very busy people, and their courses will go on whether they change their textbook or not. So they deal with what's urgent. So we did develop some engagement strategies to really get them engaged in the books, to get them to stop and think and see that open textbooks are actually an option. So we did get, after we did that, we had adoptions. But we did, as we're moving forward, we're seeing more barriers at kind of a systems or almost an environmental level for open textbooks. So, for instance, we realized open textbooks disappear. I should mention, by the way, we created, to get them aware of, let me back up a second. One other barrier is they don't know where to find them. So we created a catalog of all of them at open.umn.edu. They also don't understand the quality of the textbooks. They don't know what they are. That's big for them, right? They want to pick the best quality textbooks. So we are implementing a peer review system that we're just starting to collect reviews on right now. Okay, now I'll get to some of those textbooks disappeared January 1st when Flat World Knowledge went black. And that happens generally anyway. So we're moving from this catalog being a referatory to more of a repository. So we're actually going to, University of Minnesota Libraries has agreed to take on curating the collection of open textbooks, so that we'll have that collection permanently. We are, and I should mention, we were going to be doing that in partnership with Connections at Rice University. And there's another presentation tomorrow at the same time as my other presentation tomorrow about that. So that's all I have time for. Come and talk to me afterwards if you're more interested.
I'm David Harris, the editor-in-chief for OpenStax College. We're based out of Rice University, and we're building a collection of 25 very high-quality, peer-reviewed, professionally developed textbooks for core courses. Our first 2 projects published in June 2012, and since that time we've had tremendous uptake. In fact, we've had over 350 schools are now using these resources. It's represented over 50,000 students and over $4.8 million in savings. So we're very excited, and the question is how do you get adoptions in a very competitive market? We do not work in a vacuum. There are tremendous forces that are working for the publishers, the huge sales forces, and they're touching the faculty every day. So how do we do this? How do we wage this awareness battle, if you will, unconventionally? Well, there are 5 strategies that we're deploying and will continue to deploy. The first is an ecosystem model. The ecosystem model has us partnering with service providers who enhance the content or provide key online resources such as online homework with our materials. These are resources the faculty need. So we partner with WebAssign, Sapling Learning, even John Wiley and Sons. This does two things. Number one, it enhances our offering, but number two, all these organizations have extensive sales and marketing operations, so they go and build awareness for us without us having to do that. That's the first step. The second step is we've built an extensive CRMS database of faculty names in the disciplines that we're going to. And we reach out to them on a consistent basis to communicate about the developments of the projects and OER in general. We need to have that communication with the community if we are to drive adoption. The third is market outreach. We go to professional trade shows and academic meetings to build awareness for this. It's a tremendous source. It's also a great source to get new projects too. And we work with organizations who actually reach out to faculty on our behalf. The fourth step is something that we're leveraging more and more, and that is social viral networks. There is no better advocate for open resources than a professor who's adopted. They've had a tremendous experience in their course, and then they can recommend that to their colleagues. And we've seen this in the disciplines that we're in. In fact, more and more of our users are through referrals. And so this is something that we're going to leverage and continue to leverage. And the fifth is earned media. We're very fortunate being based out of Rice University, and the Public Relations Group has done a tremendous job at building awareness through newspapers and magazines and online, Fortune, Times, New York Times, etc. So I think it's these 5 models that we continue to hone in on and expand that we can compete, if you will, effectively in the market. And then finally, as we move into a new year in January, I think we need to think as a community a pivot on how we communicate OER. Maybe we're moving from a struggle phase to one in which we start selling hope and success. Because fear motivates, but hope sells. And we need to start profiling our adopters who are having amazing success and celebrate those, because that's contagious. And that's something that we're going to start a dialogue in January. Thank you very much.
One more speaker.
Cool. Well, the danger of going last is you always wonder if you're going to get any time. But fortunately, I have 6 whole minutes. I won't take it all, I promise. So hi everybody, my name's Ethan. I work with the Student Pergs and US Perg. We're a nationwide student advocacy organization. Many of you are probably familiar with Nicole Allen, who now works for Spark. I've taken over the textbooks campaign for PERG, and I'm very excited to be here with all of you today. So we have campus chapters comprised of student activists and volunteers on college campuses all over the country, and they work and pool their resources to hire professional staff and organizers to help train them to be advocates and organizers in their own right. The Open Textbooks campaign is such an important issue for students because it's such a significant cost for students. And so our theory for the Open Textbooks issue has always been to help make students the voice of the issue. In many ways, students are already the face. They're the ones that have to pay $250 for a textbook. They're the ones that spend $1,200 a year and have to deal with prices that increase 4 times the rate of inflation. So we want to empower students to actually take on a role in engaging faculty and engaging decision makers about open textbooks and helping drive adoptions on that level. So there's really 3 ways that we help drive adoption on campuses. The first way, as I mentioned, is to train students as activists. We've developed a toolkit that we distribute to all of our campuses, and we're happy to share with students at any campus across the country that gives them, first of all, background information to help them understand the issue, then trains them on how to actually approach a faculty member and have a one-on-one conversation about open textbooks, review the benefits and the negatives, and also just talk to them about how they can make the transition and why it's so important to do so. We're also working to bring in students from our coalition partners in Washington, D.C. There's lots of national student organizations, and we really want to expand the reach of the toolkit and the issue of open textbooks to as many campuses as possible. The second thing that we do is hold events to generate media awareness and raise the profile of the campaign. So if any of you were in Nicole's session just before this, she talked about the Textbooks Rebellion Tour, where we created these 8-foot tall mascots of an open textbook called the Textbook Rebel and Mr. $200 Textbook. And we toured across the country. We went to 40 campuses, drove 9,000 miles. And at each campus, we held a big press event to talk about open textbooks and then gathered student volunteers to actually go out and have conversations one-on-one with professors in their offices to talk about the importance of switching. There's lots of other opportunities there. We've done textbook yearbooks where students talk about how much they've spent on textbooks. We've done used textbook graveyards where students talk about the fact that their textbook is no longer resellable because new editions have been published. So there's a lot of opportunity there. And then the last part of it is to connect students with decision makers. There's no more powerful a story about open textbooks than the student who had to skip buying textbooks for his class because they were too expensive, or worse, the student that couldn't afford textbooks for a class and couldn't take the classes that they wanted. These are a significant cost for students, and there's no better messenger to bring to decision makers to show them that the issue is important than students. And so that's how we work to engage students and to bring their message to faculty and to decision makers and help encourage open textbook adoption. Thanks.
So we have just a few minutes for questions if anybody wants to ask anybody on the panel a question.
You guys have mentioned some websites. Is there any way you guys can compile these for us who don't type as fast as...
I'm sure we can figure out a way.
Or maybe even if you put it on your profiles, we can
Yes.
find that way.
I'll figure something out.
Thank you.
Yeah, totally. Other questions?
I'm just wondering, in the planning and the selection of the open textbooks between and among these various partners and projects, how much cross dialogue is there to help maybe avoid undue overlap among the textbooks, especially
Lots,
for
actually. All the people who are on the panel have attended a couple of summits together. And for example, our project now has 28 textbooks on our website. We adopted all of them. We have not created anything from scratch yet, and we think that's crucial. Reinventing the wheel is stupid. It's a waste of time and money. Our project is adopt, adapt, create, only create where necessary.
One of the, to echo comments there, one of the challenges that we are is not a lack of content. There's so much content. It's really narrowing down to the highest quality content that people can adapt. And we are getting to that place now. So if you're spending $1 and you have a choice, am I going to spend that on adoption creation versus adaptation? You're going to get a lot more leverage with the adaptation dollar.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Thanks for coming.